Follow me your conscience. I want to bury it inside here.
Yes.
All the people that you see here are students. But the most important thing is that they don't know what to expect in the future. But the French kids who are going to school just like you, they know already when they finish the school, they have a job, they have a house, they have America! France! England! Arab! Everyone! Africa, we stand together! Peace and love, freedom and decolonization to all African people, those at home, those abroad, and those in the future. As always, we greet you with our revolutionary greetings by saying that if you have two shoes, please sell one and buy a sword. If you have two trousers, please sell one and buy a sword. Because now it is time for revolution. And this revolution is no longer on streets. It's not about burning cars. But this revolution is in the mind. It is essentially about building our own cars, selling them to make money. So once again, welcome to the ACUP's channel. My name is King Kabbalah, a member of the African Continental Unity Party, and I'm working in the communication department. Happy again to have you on this quick session or short session that we want to have today, just to try to catch up with the developing news in Africa and trying to put our voice to make a statement from ACUP's point of view on what is happening on the continent today, which essentially is the reality or the situation in Burkina Faso. As we have all learned about it, there was another attempt coup d'etat which failed in Burkina Faso. So we are here to just briefly talk about it. And the two things that I want to accomplish on this analysis is firstly to send our supports to the leadership in that part of Africa and to our people in Burkina Faso, the land of right people, and as well as to make our opinion, or to, how can I put it, to send our opinion, what we think, what we believe as ACUP, what we think should happen, what we understand must happen based on the historical facts, or our advice, as an organization that is across the continent, and an organization that is built on historical facts and studies. Now, the first thing first, in the name of the African Continental Unity Party, the name of the ACUP, we are sending our support to the captain Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso. I think we wrote a statement. We made a written statement 2 days ago, which we shared on our social media and stuff. So we want to reiterate that we are standing together in solidarity with our people in Burkina Faso, including those in Mali and in Niger, and we are supporting these leaders, or the leadership of these three countries. At the same time, we encourage other African countries to join that momentum, because we believe it to be an embryo of a new Africa that we all wish for, because the current Africa is not really an Africa of our choosing. Now, that being said, we also want to condemn this barbaric behavior of trying to undermine any initiative of African liberation and emancipation. And the viciousness of this barbaric act is the fact that it uses mostly some African leaders. It uses some African leaders. As it has been said over and over again, wherever you see the work of Western imperialism, you must see the executing hand of that work. You won't be surprised it's going to be the African hand. So, in other words, the executioners of the Western imperialism, of slavery, of colonialism, and today of neocolonialism, the guardians, the managers, the how can I call it, the advisors, the executioners of this system have been always African people. And in this century where there's a rise tendency of nationalism here and there, we see it in the United States, everyone or every country, they try to, or every continent, I should say, are trying to see their interest. We still have to struggle in Africa with people who are officially and openly betray our hope and our future and sell out the aspirations of a better life of African people. They are sellouts. And officially, and we know them. In other countries, in other race, those such people are executed. But us, we even worship them. So these are the things that we condemn, and we stand against this type of behaviors and attitudes on the continent of Africa. As ACUP, we stand together with Burkina Faso, and we condemn all those who have transformed themselves as the tools of Western imperialism in Africa to continue undermining every initiative that can bring Africa towards that trajectory of progress, development, peace, and prosperity. This being said, the advice that we have as ACUP, the opinion that we want to put on the table for the leadership in these three countries, namely Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, to consider, and at large, the whole Africa to consider, is this. And what I'm about to say might maybe hurt some people, but it is true, and I think it is the truth that we all have to face and to understand. And this is the truth. When it comes to Africa, the God of Africa today, in today's context, the God of Africa is the Western man, precisely the white man. I know you may be shocked, but let me explain. The Africa that we have today, which is fragmented in different pieces in what we can, in the context of revolution, call 54 colonial enclosures. This Africa is not the creation of the divine, neither was the creation of our ancestors. It was the Western men who sat at the Berlin Conference 1885 and 1884-1885 to create the Africa in its current context. They created these countries: Congo, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, you name it, all of them. And they also created the positions of leadership in all these countries. They did not just create the countries, they also create the structure, right? They created the structure of leadership that we have in these countries. The presidents, the prime minister, all these things have been the creation, of course, of the Western man. And as Christian or Muslim used to say, God created man so that man can serve him or her. I don't mind whatever gender you want to put it. I would say the same thing, that the reason why the Western man created the current Africa was for Africa to serve them. For Africa to serve them. And it has been like that since the post-independence period, actually during the colonialism, right? It has been like that. The resources of the continent have been serving the Western countries, so that when the French kids, the kids in England, in Germany, when they go to school, already they have expectation in their lives. They know when they finish their studies, they're going to be this, that, and so forth and so on. Unlike us in Africa, when we study, we don't even know if we are going to finish the school because there's uncertainties everywhere. And when we finish the studies, we don't have any expectation. Sometimes we study medicine, we study engineering, we study different studies, and we find ourselves in real life selling, airtimes and selling phones and all those kind of stuff, because that prospect that European kids have based on the resources of Africa, we don't have that prospect in Africa, even though we live with those resources right here. Every day, there are resources being taken out of our countries, whether you go in Congo, South Africa, Mali, Ghana, all these resources are being taken out of the continent. But there's no exchange of values, right? As the resources go, we should have expect, some prosperity, some peace, tranquility, and all those kind of things in our countries, but that cannot be found on the continent. Instead, we have misery, hunger, malnutrition, diseases. All these things are to be found on the continent. So, in a nutshell, our resources and our even human energy or manpower, human capital, whatever you call it, have been at the service of those who created us in the context in which we are living today. Whether you like it or not, but that's a reality. That is what is happening right now, because they created these countries to serve them. Now, what I'm trying to say is this. If they created these countries to serve them, and one day you ascend to the position of leadership in these countries, and you suddenly want to change, want to rebel yourself against those who created that position to serve them, you want to rebel against them, you want to change the status quo to begin now serving your people, you are putting yourself in a blacklist, and you are going to be forever a target for their vicious behavior. You can succeed for 1 year, you can succeed for 2 years, you can even succeed for all the years that you will be in power, but nothing guarantees that after you there will be the same energy and momentum. They can replace you with somebody who will undo everything that you have done to go back to square one, where the system continues to serve them. This is what we have to understand as African people. And this is actually what Thomas Sankara stated in their national anthem, what is called Dintaye. He said that the fight that we are fighting today is against foreign malice, which has metamorphosed itself into neo-colonialism and their local little servants. So you see, we have a problem today, not just against the neo-colonialism or the foreign malice that has been transformed into neo-colonialism in Africa, but we are also fighting against its little local servants, and those are the leaders that we have on the continent. So the point that I want to mention here is that these leaders, Ibrahim Traoré, the general in Mali, and the one in Niger, they shouldn't get comfortable in these positions and hold on to them. We know, and they clearly understood that we have a chance to survive and to fight and to win if we are working together in the ideas of PanAfricanism. If we unite and work together as African people, that is where we have the capacity and the capability to fight and overcome the oppression that has been imposed on us. So individuals cannot win this fight. In fact, I used to say that neo-colonialism or imperialism today has been globalized, has become a global agenda and global force. You must look at the level, the capacity and the power of multinational corporations that are enslaving our countries and plundering our resources. They have a huge capacity of actions. And you cannot believe that one day a country like Gabon a little country like Burkina Faso, a little country like Botswana will be able to defeat this international and global imperialism. It's only when we come together as African people that we can challenge the status quo and overcome the challenge that is facing us today. And to do that, we must be able to give up on certain so-called privilege, such as that position of I am the president, I am the leader, I am the one. So the message that we have here as ASUP is that we are not supposed to consider the revolution that is taking place in Mali we shouldn't personify this revolution on the person of Ibrahim Traoré or the General Chani or the other in Niger, in Mali, Assimi Goïta in Mali. Because these individuals can be taken out at any time and that revolution will end. This revolution must be the revolution. It must be the revolution of the people, of the masses. In other words, people must be important. People must be the center of this revolution. And nobody can take out everyone. And we say this based on what has been happening in the past. What happened to Kwame Nkrumah? What happened to Thomas Sankara? What happened to Patrice Lumumba? And the West man knows that in order to stop any movement, any progressive movement, any revolutionary movement in Africa, what it has to be done, they have to target the person, the charismatic leader of that movement. Once you take him out, you have cut the head of the snake and the movement stops. And this has been happening. So within the ideology that we have in ACUP, we developed ideology based on this understanding. And what we said is that let the vision lead. So in other words, our revolution in the ACUP, and we believe this should be the case for the entire continent, the revolution must be guided, must be led by the vision, and all of us must be just servants fulfilling different functions, so that if one is taken out, the other one replaces him or her on that particular function and the machine continues to function. But if we have to worship Ibrahim Traoré, and mind you, 2 years back as ACUP, we organized a continental march in 6 countries to support Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. We did that. We believe in what they are doing, but what we want to emphasize is that let them not be the centers of this revolution. People must be the center. So in other words, we want them to remove this position of president of Mali or Burkina Faso, and it creates a collegial leadership of these 3 countries. We want them to remove single armies of this country, individual armies, and to create a collective army of these 3 states. In fact, we want them to make these 3 countries in one country, which can be, as I said from the beginning, the embryo of new Africa that we want to create. You see, the reality is in Africa today, we have had so many heroes, and we no longer need heroic deaths. We don't longer need heroic deaths. What we need now is victory and progress. And for that to happen, we need to give up on certain colonial inheritances that we have, colonial heritages. We have to abandon some colonial positions that we have inherited and recreate the Africa that we want, honestly. Because it's good for you to be president and celebrated. It's good for you to be a leader. But at the end of it, do you have a guarantee that when you are gone, the change that you have created will be sustainable? Because that position is still vulnerable. For as long as white men can replace you with another Negro who will continue with the same work of undermining African progress and African agenda for liberation. So, our message is clear. Let us accelerate the agenda of African liberation, African emancipation. Let's Captain Ibrahim Traoré, let's General Chani, let's Assimi Goïta, all these people understand that it is essential now that we restructure Africa with ideas of PanAfricanism, and let them think deeply about it and create something new that has never existed, something that is the creation of us as African people, so that the enemy cannot destroy it. We hope this message will arrive to Captain Ibrahim Traore and the whole leadership in the IS countries, and we believe that they will take actions according to this message. And we encourage all African people to put themselves as the center of this revolution, because the salvation of Africa is no longer something that we can expect from a single leader or supernatural leader. It's a collective agenda of all of us as African people. When we begin to organize ourselves in a community basis and begin to do positive actions that can transform our lives. Peace and love, freedom and decolonization to all African people, those at home, those abroad, and those in the future. If you have 2 shoes, please sell one and buy a sword, because now it is time for revolution. And this revolution must begin in how we think, how we perceive reality, and how we do actions. This revolution must be in the mind. Thank you very much for your time, and see you next time. Peace and love. See you again. Bye-bye.